I was falsely accused of cheating by my wife, lost my kids and spent years rebuilding my life. When she found out I became rich, she tried to sue me for alimony. I turned the tables in the most unexpected way. Hey everyone! Before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video using throwaway. For obvious reasons, this is going to be a long one, guys, but I promise it's worth the read. TLDR at bottom. So I, 34 male, need to get this crazy story off my chest, because the last few years have been like something out of a bad Netflix drama, except it actually happened to me. It's taken me a while to be ready to write this all out, but here goes. I guess I should start with some background. I was your typical computer science nerd in college. You know, the kind who practically lived off energy drinks and could code for 12 hours straight. Got my degree from a decent state school, not MIT or anything fancy, just a regular college in the Northeast. Right after graduation, I landed a job at this small tech startup that was trying to build cloud security software. Not going to give too many details because I don't want to dox myself, but let's just say it was one of those typical 5 guys in a way work type startups. The pay wasn't great at first, like $65,000 a year in a pretty expensive city, but they offered stock options, more on that later, and I figured it was worth the gamble. Plus, the founders seemed like they actually knew what they were doing, unlike some of the other startups I interviewed with that were basically just burning through VC money. This is where I met Amy, not her real name. Obviously it was the most cliché meet cute ever. I was at this local coffee shop near our office running on like 2 hours of sleep cause we had a big deployment the night before. Totally knocked my coffee all over her MacBook. I felt like such an idiot, but she was surprisingly cool about it. Ended up buying her a new one. Maxed out my credit card, but worth it, lol. And somehow that turned into getting drinks, which turned into dating. Amy was working as a dental hygienist at the time, super smart, funny, definitely out of my league looks-wise. We just clicked. You know, she actually seemed interested when I rambled about coding stuff, and I loved hearing her absolutely wild stories about nightmare patients at the dental office. We got married after 2 years of dating, nothing fancy, just a small ceremony in her parents' backyard. Used most of our savings to put a down payment on a small starter home in the suburbs. The commute sucked, like 45 minutes each way, but the schools were good and we were thinking ahead. Kids came along pretty quick after that. Lily was born in 2016 and Max followed in 2019. Not going to lie, those first few years were rough, trying to balance a startup job with midnight feedings and diaper changes. There were days I literally forgot if I'd showered or not. But Amy was amazing with the kids. She cut back to part-time at the dental office so she could be home more, and we made it work. The startup was growing slowly but steady. We went from 5 guys in a way worker to about 50 people in a real office. I got promoted to lead developer, then engineering manager. The stock options kept vesting. I had about 200,000 shares at 50 cents each. Honestly thought they'd probably end up worthless like most startup stock, but figured I'd hold on to them just in case. We had a pretty good life going, nice neighborhood, decent schools, family vacations to Disney every other year, nothing crazy expensive. But the kids loved it. Had cool neighbors too, lots of young families, block parties in the summer, that whole suburban dream thing. Amy made friends with all the other moms. I'd grab beers with some of the dads while our kids had play dates, normal, boring, happy life. Then Mike and Jessica moved in next door in 2021. Mike was this wannabe fitness influencer type. You know, the kind always posting workout videos on Instagram. Had his garage set up like a CrossFit gym, super friendly at first, always offering to help with house projects and stuff. Jessica worked long hours at some law firm in the city, so Mike was home a lot during the day working on his brand or whatever. Looking back now, I can see all the red flags. But when you're working 50 to 60-hour weeks trying to keep a startup alive through COVID, plus dealing with 2 young kids, you miss things. Or maybe you see them but don't want to believe it. Amy started working out at Mike's garage gym. Said she wanted to get in shape after having the kids, started wearing makeup to go out. Who does that? Would come back all giggly and energized. I actually thought it was good at first. She seemed happier, had more energy. God, I was stupid. So Mike and his CrossFit obsession next door. At first it was just little things, you know, like I'd come home from work and he'd be helping Amy move furniture or fixing something in our backyard. Always shirtless, by the way, 'cause apparently shirts aren't a thing when you have abs. I was working crazy hours at the startup cause we were trying to close this huge deal with a major tech company, can't name names but think FANG. Level had a ton of security features to build and deadlines were insane. Some weeks I was pulling 14-hour days. Basically only saw the kids on weekends. Amy seemed understanding at first, but then the comments started. Mike says you should make time for family. Mike thinks it's important to have work-life balance. Mike manages to run his business and stay in shape like cool story. Amy. But Mike's business is posting gym selfies on Instagram while my job actually pays our mortgage. Then she started getting really into fitness, and when I say really into it I mean obsessed. Suddenly our grocery bill doubled cause everything had to be organic and grass-fed. Started buying all these fancy supplements that Mike recommended. Our kitchen looked like a GNC threw up in it. The workout schedule got weird too. Used to be like 3 times a week at normal times. Then it was every day, always when I was at work or with the kids. She'd come back all flushed and happy. Hair wet from showering at the gym, started wearing makeup to work out. Who TF does that? Bought all this expensive Lululemon stuff cause apparently her old Target leggings weren't good enough anymore. But the really weird stuff started with her phone. Amy was never really a tech person. Before, like, she'd leave her phone in random places and not care. Suddenly she's glued to it 24/7, always texting, always with the screen tilted away from me. Got a new password and wouldn't tell me what it was. We used to know each other's passwords not cause we snooped, but just in case of emergencies with the kids. The worst part. She started getting super aggressive about everything. Like I'd ask what she wanted for dinner, and she'd snap at me saying I never help with meal planning. Or I'd try to talk about my day at work and she'd roll her eyes and say, "Not everything is about your precious startup." Real Jekyll and Hyde. One day I was playing with Max in the backyard and saw Mike spotting Amy during some kind of workout through their garage window. Dude was literally pressed up against her helping with her form, or whatever Max waves and goes. Mommy and Mike are best friends. Yeah buddy, I bet they are. I tried talking to her about it, told her I was feeling weird about how much time she was spending over there. Big mistake, she absolutely flipped out, started screaming about how I was controlling and jealous. How I was trying to stop her from having friends, how I was never home anyway, so why did I care? Then she started picking fights about money. The startup wasn't paying great. We were still in growth phase but we were comfortable. Suddenly nothing was enough. She wanted to renovate the kitchen, needed a new car, wanted to send Lily to some fancy private school. When I explained about startup salary versus stock options, she'd get this. Looked like I was speaking alien. Looking back, I should have seen what was coming. Started noticing weird charges on our credit card, fancy restaurants. I never went to hotel charges in our own city. Who needs a hotel 20 minutes from home? Some lingerie place. I definitely never saw her wear anything from. The kids started acting different too. Lily 8 went from being this happy, chatty kid to super quiet. Max 5 got clingy, would cry whenever I left for work. Once caught him talking to his stuffed animals about how mommy and Mike are having a sleepover while daddy works. Yeah, that hit like a truck. One night I came home early cause our deployment got delayed. House was dark but Amy's car was in the driveway. Heard music coming from Mike's garage gym. Walked over thinking maybe I should try to clear the air. Talk Manto Man. Yeah, that was not what I found. Won't go into details, but let's just say Amy's workout routine definitely wasn't focused on fitness. Jessica, Mike's wife, was working late at her law firm like usual. Didn't confront them then, just took a video on my phone and went back home. Sat in my car for like an hour just processing. Called in sick the next day, talked to a lawyer guy, told me to act normal, gather evidence. Don't let them know. I knew hardest week of my life pretending everything was fine while they were literally doing their thing next door. So I had the video of Amy and Mick workout session saved in about 6 different places. Was going to confront Amy that weekend when my parents could take the kids, had it all planned out. Divorce papers ready, evidence documented, everything. But Amy and Mike had their own plan and they moved first. It was a regular Tuesday. I was at work in code reviews when my team lead messages me to come to HR. Weird but not totally unusual given all the Amazon acquisition talks happening. Walk in and there's 2 cops waiting. Turns out Amy had gone to the police that morning with bruises, claiming I'd beaten her during an argument about money. According to her, I'd lost control when she confronted me about spending too much time at work. She even had pictures of bruises on her arms and face. Cops arrested me right there in the office. Most humiliating moment of my life. Getting handcuffed in front of all my coworkers. Spent 48 hours in jail before my brother could post bail. Lost my phone, no access to my work laptop, company policy with arrests. Couldn't go home because of the emergency restraining order. Amy filed had to sleep on my brother's couch while wearing an ankle monitor like some kind of criminal. The company put me on administrative leave, their nice way of saying you're fired, but we'll wait for the PR nightmare to die down first. 15 years of clean record. Never even had a parking ticket and suddenly I'm a domestic abuser. My face was in the local news. Local tech executive arrested for domestic violence. Yeah, that went great with potential employers. Here's the really up part. Amy and Mike had planned this for weeks, found out later they'd been documenting every argument we had, aka normal conversations. They twisted, taking pictures of any time Amy bumped into something and got a bruise. She's clumsy. AF always has been building this whole fake history of abuse. They even got some of the other neighborhood moms involved. Suddenly these women I'd had BBQs with, whose kids had birthday parties at our house, were writing statements about how they'd always suspected I was abusive, how they'd heard arguing from our house. Yeah, 'cause Amy was screaming about CrossFit at 6 a.m. One even claimed she saw me grab Amy's arm aggressively while getting groceries from the car. I was helping her carry bags 'cause she'd sprained her wrist doing whatever with Mike. The worst part? CPS got involved. Amy got emergency custody of the kids. I went from seeing my children every day to being allowed supervised visits for 2 hours every other weekend. Do you know how up it is to have to see your own kids in some depressing government building, while some social worker takes notes about every interaction? Had to cash out some of my stock options just to afford a lawyer. Company bylaws said I could keep the rest as long as I'd been there over 5 years. Thank God for small mercies. I guess moved into this depressing studio apartment near my brother's place. It was all I could afford with IL legal bills and child support payments. Lily wouldn't even look at me during visits. Found out Amy had told her I was sick in the head and needed to get better before I could come home. Max would just cry and ask why I didn't love them anymore. Try explaining domestic violence allegations to a 5-year-old. Actually don't, 'cause it's impossible. Lost most of my friends too. Funny how people disappear when you're accused of something like this. The few who stuck around were mostly guys from work who'd seen how much I'd sacrificed for my family. They knew the real story, but their hands were tied with the legal stuff going on. Meanwhile, Mike and Amy weren't even trying to hide it anymore. He'd moved out of his house with Jessica, who apparently had her own to deal with once she found out about everything. They were posting gym selfies together, going to restaurants, acting like they were perfect couple, using my child support money to fund their little love story. Had to start driving Uber on weekends just to make ends meet. Went from leading engineering teams to picking up drunk college kids at 2 a.m. The irony. Some of my passengers were interns at my old company. Try keeping it together when some 22-year-old is talking about the amazing project you got fired from. Remember those stock options? I mentioned the ones I had to partially cash out to pay for lawyers. Yeah, this is where it gets wild. But first let me paint you a picture of rock bottom. I was living in this 400-foot studio apartment that smelled like the previous tenants. 50 cats, had a party, working 2 jobs. Junior dev at some corporate hellhole during the day. Only place that would hire me with the DV charges pending, an Uber driver at night, eating ramen and peanut butter sandwiches to afford child support. Still had about 200,000 shares of my old company's stock that I couldn't sell due to lockup periods. The startup was doing okay, not great, but surviving. We had this security software that helped companies manage their cloud infrastructure. Boring tech stuff, I know. Amazon Web Services had been sniffing around for a while, but nothing serious. Then Log4j happened for non-TE people. Imagine someone found a way to break into basically every company's computer system through a tiny hole. Nobody noticed. That's Log4j. Our software happened to be really good at finding and fixing that hole. Right place, right time. One random Tuesday I'm picking up my phone between Uber rides and see like 50 missed calls. The startup's getting acquired by AWS. Stocks going from $4 to $247 per share in the buyout. Did the math like 20 times 'cause I thought I was hallucinating. 200,000 shares times $247 equal 49.4 million before taxes. First thing I did, threw up. Second thing, called my lawyer. Third thing, threw up again. Here's where it gets fun. The acquisition news made local headlines. Local tech startup wired by Amazon for $2.1 billion. My name was buried in there somewhere as one of the early employees. Guess who reads local tech news? Amy's lawyer. Within 24 hours I get this email from Amy. First one since the arrest. All sweet and concerned like we're still best friends or something. Hey, hope you're doing well. Been thinking about our situation. Maybe we should talk about what's best for the kids. Translation: I heard you're rich. Now let me get my claws in. I didn't respond, took a screenshot, sent it to my lawyer, then went back to my Uber shift needed to keep appearances normal while everything finalized. The acquisition would take 3 months to close and I didn't want Amy causing problems before then. But Amy wasn't done. Next day Mike's at my regular coffee shop. Totally coincidental, right? Tries to act all buddy. Hey man, water under the bridge. We all make mistakes. Amy's really sorry about everything. Yeah, sorry, she accused me of beating her, got me arrested, took my kids and ruined my reputation. But now that I'm worth millions, let's be friends. Such a convenient change of heart. Kept driving Uber right up until the acquisition closed. The looks on passengers' faces when they'd recognize me from the news articles. Priceless. Aren't you that guy who, yep, that's me, your millionaire Uber driver? The day the money hit my account was surreal. After taxes and fees, ended up with about $28 million. First thing I did. Bought a modest 3-bedroom house in a gated community. Nothing flat, but it had good security and was in the kids' school district. Set up college funds for Lily and Max, $2 million each in trust they can't touch till they're 25. Started a small software consulting business, mostly to keep busy and have a legit income source. That wasn't surprise. She says, we can fix this. Translation: I'm broke. You're rich. Let's pretend I didn't completely up your life. Then she drops the bomb. I've talked to my lawyer. If we can't work this out, well, I have rights. The stock value increased during our marriage and with your history of domestic violence. Ah, there it is, the threat behind the tears. Classic Amy. I let her finish her performance, even offered her some tissues. The cheap, rough ones, not the fancy soft kind. Then I just said I'll have my lawyer contact yours and showed her out. The second she left, called my lawyer. Turns out Amy had been busy. Filed for emergency spousal support based on the acquisition money. Tried to modify the custody agreement, claiming my newfound wealth made me a flight risk. Even reached out to some of my old coworkers looking for dirt. The real comedy. She's still posting inspirational quotes on Instagram about rising above negativity and finding your truth. Between those and gym selfies with her new trainer, guess Mike got replaced. You guys aren't going to believe what happened in court. Remember those security cameras I mentioned? Yeah, they're about to become important. Court date was set for last month. Amy shows up looking like she raided the Salvation Army. Plain dress, no makeup, hair and a messy bun. Real struggling single mom. Vibes. Even had the kids with her against court orders. By the way, sitting in the front row like props in her little show, her lawyer goes first. Dude's wearing a suit that probably cost more than my first car. Starts painting this picture of Amy as this devoted wife who supported her husband through his tech career and sacrificed her own ambitions to raise our kids. Claims she deserves half the acquisition money because her emotional support was crucial to the company's success. Yeah, such great emotional support. Nothing says I believe in you like false DV charges. Then they bring up the domestic violence stuff again. Try spinning it like I'm the volatile tech bro who got lucky with stocks and might flee the country with my millions. Even had the balls to suggest I might be dangerous now that I have unlimited resources. My lawyer Greg, absolute legend, just sits there taking notes, looking bored. Amy keeps shooting me these little worried looks, probably wondering why we're not freaking out about their story. Then it's our turn. Greg stands up, straightens his tie and says, Your Honor, before we begin our defense, I'd like to present some new evidence that's recently come to light. Cue the security camera footage from my house. See, Amy didn't just visit once with her fake reconciliation act. She'd been coming by almost every day when I was at my office trying to get in. And guess who was with her half the time? Mike. The cameras caught them planning the whole thing. Amy and Mike, sitting in his car outside my house, literally rehearsing her emotional speech. Caught her planting some fake evidence in my mailbox letter she'd written to herself about being afraid of me, dated before the DV charges even got them, laughing about how easy it would be to take half my money. But wait, there's more. Remember those bruises she used to frame me? Turns out my Ring doorbell caught her and Mike staging those two back when they were still neighbors. Video shows them using makeup to create fake bruises, taking photos, even practicing her scared wife face, the judge's face. During all this, priceless Amy looked like she was going to throw up. Mike, who got subpoenaed to appear, kept trying to leave but the baith made him stay. Then Greg drops the nuclear bomb. Turns out Amy and Mike have been trying to pull similar scams with other people. Found two other guys in different cities, both successful tech workers, both falsely accused of abuse. Both got taken to the cleaners and divorce settlements. Amy and Mike had it down to a science. The real MVP, Jessica, Mike's ex-wife, she's a lawyer herself and had been building a case against them for months, came to court with a whole file of evidence, texts, emails, bank records showing how they'd split their previous scam money. By the time Greg was done, Amy's lawyer looked like he wanted to crawl under the table, started backpedaling so fast I thought he'd fall over, Your Honor. My client may have been confused about certain events. Judge wasn't having any of it, called a recess. Came back an hour later looking pissed as hell, threw out Amy's claim for the stock money, ordered her to pay my legal fees and referred the whole case to the DA for potential fraud charges. But the best part, the custody modification judge took one look at those videos of Amy and Mike plotting to scam me and ordered an emergency custody evaluation. Kids are with me now while Amy gets investigated for perjury and fraud. Oh, and Mike dude tried to run as soon as court ended, literally sprinted for the parking lot. Got caught by Jessica's new boyfriend, who happens to be a cop. Talk about karma. I will update you guys soon. Final update time. A lot's happened since the court showdown 3 months ago. First off, Amy and Mike got arrested. Turns out running multiple fraud schemes across state lines is federal territory. FBI's been building a case against them for weeks. They found 3 other victims besides me, all tech guys. All got hit with false DV charges. All lost everything in rigged divorces. Amy and Mike had their scam down to a science. The kids are with me full-time now. Not going to lie, it's been rough. 2 traumatized kids plus 1 dad. Learning how to be a full-time parent equals some serious chaos. First week I burned dinner 3 times. Sent Lily to school with mismatched shoes and completely forgot about Max's show and tell day. But we're figuring it out. Hired a child psychologist who specializes in parental alienation cases. Dr. Sarah. Not sharing her full name is amazing. With the kids, Lily finally opened up about how Amy and Mike coached her to say she was scared of me. Max had been told I didn't want to see them anymore because I loved money more than them. Who does that to their own kids? The house thing worked out better than expected. Moved us to a nice neighborhood with good schools but nothing flashy. Got a gaming room for Max, kids obsessed with Minecraft, and let Lily design her own bedroom. Currently very pink security system that would make Fort Knox jealous, but it helps them feel safe. Started working from home full-time. My consulting company's doing well, but the kids come first. Now got a solid team handling most projects while I focus on being dad. Funny how life works. Spent years chasing success in tech, and now my biggest achievement is making Max laugh at my terrible dad jokes. Amy's facing 15 to 20 years for fraud, perjury and some other charges. I don't fully understand. Her lawyer tried to cut a deal, but the feds aren't playing, turns out. They really don't like organized fraud. Schemes targeting tech workers who knew Mike rolled on Amy. The second things got serious. Dude literally cried in FBI custody, claimed she was the mastermind, probably true, and he was just a victim of her manipulation, definitely BS. He's still looking at 10 years minimum. Jessica, Mike's ex, has been surprisingly awesome through all this. She's helping the feds build their case and has been great with the kids. They remember her from when we were neighbors and she comes over sometimes to bake cookies with them. No drama, just genuine care for 2 kids who've been through hell. The money stuff sorted itself out, set up proper trust for the kids, invested in some boring but stable stuff. My financial advisor recommended and started a foundation helping fathers fighting false DV charges. The foundation's already helped 3 dads get their kids back dating. Yeah, that's a hard no right now. Trust issues aside, I'm not bringing anyone new into my kids' lives. Until they're ready, they've dealt with enough adult drama for a lifetime. Some unexpected good came from all this though. Remember my old company, the one that fired me after the DV charges? Their CEO called personally to apologize. Offered me a consulting gig, declined and wrote a public letter clearing my name. Didn't need it anymore, but it meant something. Lily is doing better in school. Now her teachers say she's smiling again, participating in class. She's joining the science club next semester. Turns out she's got her dad's nerd genes after all. Max is still Max. Endless energy and a heart too big for his body. He's decided he wants to be a computer game maker who helps people when he grows up. The neighbor who wrote that false statement against me came by last week to apologize. Said Amy had convinced her I was dangerous. Showed her fake evidence. We're not going to be friends. But it's one less person looking at me like I'm a monster. Some days are still hard. The kids have nightmares. Sometimes Lily gets anxious when I'm out of sight too long. Max asks at least once a week if I'm sure I want them living with me. But we're healing, taking it one day at a time. TLDR? Ex-wife and CrossFit bro facing federal charges got my kids back. Focusing on being a dad and helping other fathers in similar situations. Edit holy this blew up. Thanks for all the support through this whole saga. Edit 2 to everyone asking about the foundation. Yes, we're legit, but no, I'm not sharing links. Don't want to dox myself. Edit 3 for everyone asking about updates. If anything major happens with Amy's case, I'll post again, but for now focusing on my kids and our fresh start. Final note. Change some small details throughout these posts for privacy, but the core story is 100% true. If you're a father going through something similar, document everything, get a good lawyer and don't give up. Your kids need you.